after Little by Little?
Heavy.
So Heavy came about. Josh pulled up a photo that he liked in his bank of photos just off the internet of a random girl in the desert, and he was like, write a melody using this picture, inspired by this picture. And so that's where the beginning melody of Heavy came about, and then the whole track was basically written that night, that same night. Quiero besarte entero, amor. After Heavy, Unmiyon. It's one of Josh's favorites too. Unmiyon is inspired by Puerto Rico, and I call out like a couple of cities in the song, Luquillo and Bayamón. So Luquillo is a beach that my family and I would go to when I was little, and every time we would go to Puerto Rico, we'd go to Luquillo. And then Bayamón, I have family in Bayamón, and so it's just kind of like an ode to Puerto Rico. And our most reggaeton-inspired Maria song.
Our only song that has reggaeton beat.
Yeah, ish.
Reggaeton drums.
Yeah.
The melody in the pre-chorus, the production of it is very like complex as far as like the rhythmic of it. Like there's a lot going on, and so when Maria's sang the melody of the Quiero besarte,
it was as a joke.
Amor. Some of the best melodies are jokes, honestly. And I was just like, when she sang it, you know, and it just filled the gaps in between the complex production and like something to like smooth it out through it. Because I was thinking of melodies too, and they were all gonna be like, and it was just like, when she was just like, just straight on the one, I was like, oh yeah, that's what I needed. And then the whole Bailando junto a ti is so catchy. Spin Me Around started around 4 a.m. one night. I believe I had a couple drinks in me that night, and I was like, I'm just gonna record something very like distorted, like loud sounding. And so I was like playing guitar, and I was like, it's too loud, and I kept turning it down, and then it kind of turned into Spin Me Around, at least the chord progression. And we thought that it fit on the album because it was very like different to the rest of the album, and it, for me, and I think for you too, felt like the album needed something light, not so epic per se.
Yeah.
I was very excited about that one.
And that's one of my favorites live too.
Yeah, live Spin Me Around is how it should be.
So the next song after Spin Me Around is Mice Inside This Room, which was written before we even released any music. And it's a song about like paranoia. So the mice represent just the chatter of thoughts, the chatter of random sounds that happen at night that just freak me out. When I'm by myself, I can't go to sleep if I don't have a light on. Like I have to check every closet, under the bed. I'm just very paranoid when I'm by myself. And so the mice inside this room is sort of a representation of that paranoia. Sometimes I don't check hotels because they're so like foreign, it's not my house. And so I hesitate
to even look?
No, for real. I hesitate to even look because then I'll work myself up. Like my heart will start beating as I like open the closet door or something like that. And then I won't be able to sleep, and all of that happens. So I just accept right before I go to sleep and I'm at a hotel, I accept, if this is how I die, this is how I die. And it's something that I have to accept in order for me to sleep.
Me, on the other hand?
That's dark, but that's the mice inside this room.
Yeah.
I called to say hello. Take the summertime to grow.
To say hello, it was very trippy because I was playing the chords to that song, and Maria came in and wanting to sing on it, and I looped the chords and she started singing on it, and I had the headphones on, and it wasn't until like 5 to 10 minutes in where she was like, you called me up, you said I know. It was like part of like her whole flow. And then once she started, I was like, oh, she's singing the whole thing right now. And then she went into, I called to say hello, take this, and like the whole pre-chorus and lyrics included. Like, we should probably post that somewhere, because like it literally is like where she had nothing written. It was all freestyle, really.
Yeah.
And one take, yeah. And I remember thinking like, she literally just, we have the song. That's it. Now
and then you wrote the chorus, or you wrote the melodies.
Yeah. I was just like, now we just need like something to hit hard and then bring it back. 1, 2, 3, yeah. Fog as a Bullet.
Fog as a Bullet.
My actual favorite on the album. Unmiyon, of course, second.
So Fog was written the night, I think, that Kobe Bryant died. Like, I remember 2 days prior to that, it was really, really foggy in Los Angeles, and I was looking out the window and just thinking just like how beautiful like it looks in LA with like the soft focus of the fog. And 2 days later, it was that same fog that sort of caused so much destruction. I was just feeling like the pain of the city, even though I'm not a huge sports fan. Like, my family is, and my brother called me up like in tears. But personally, I'm not a huge sports fan, but I could just like feel like the pain of just the city, of being in LA and seeing everybody, you know, mourning for them.
It all comes and goes in waves. Everything looks the same. Cornfield.
And the last song on the album is called Talk to Her. And this one's probably the oldest on the album.
As far as when the song began, it's the oldest.
True.
There was a long time between the song beginning and us putting words to it. But the song started very early on in our relationship, 5 or 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it was just piano and it was all instrumental. And Maria would always hear me playing it and be like, I really love that one. I remember that specifically because I'd be like, oh, okay, I should keep working on this.
Yeah, I loved that.
Then we never really did anything with it because there was no melody, there was no vocal to it, it was just the instrumental. And it was, I don't know how it got brought up again, but I think when we were working on cinema.
When we were house sitting.
Oh yeah, when we were house sitting that house. Maria was like, what about that one song? And I was like, oh yeah. And started playing it, and then we tried putting some melody to it and some lyrics, but it didn't really flow. And then if you want to carry on the story with the poem.
And then the poem, or just the thought, was written on tour.
The journal entry.
The journal entry, yes, was written on tour in Minnesota. We were driving through Minnesota. And it was just a really, really tough time collectively for all of us that were on tour. It was a difficult tour. It was very little sleep, stress levels up. So it was just a way for me to understand like how I was feeling about that moment and how I was feeling about the tour in general. And I just felt inspired to just pull out my little notebook and write that. And then while we were house sitting, this infamous house, I found my little notebook and I was just reading some of the entries out loud to Josh and Eddie, who plays keys. And I got to this moment and it was so melodramatic and so dark that we were just dying laughing because we all felt the way that this entry, the way that I felt writing this entry, it was a collective feeling. Nobody felt good in that time. So we were just dying laughing because you guys related so much, and just looking back at that terrible moment, you know, the fact that we got through it. We found it really funny. And then we decided...
It's kind of like if you're not laughing, you're crying.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And in that moment, we chose to laugh. And then fast forward to, we had the track for Talk to Her, the instrumental track. And Josh was like, what would it sound like if we put the poem over this track? And so we tried it and we really liked the way that it sounded. And we thought that it was a very sort of cinematic closer to an album called Cinema.
When we first tried it, I got chills because the poem ended right where it ends now in the recording, which is right before the climactic part of the song. So, and it was just like, it wasn't timed, it wasn't supposed to be like that. Like, we had no idea. We were like, let's just try it. It was another like one take kind of thing. Right before, I still get chills in that part of the song now, too, every time I hear it.
For revenge, I see you falling in my damn boat of lines, full of breath I take.
If I could be an ice cream flavor, I would be this vegan honeycomb from this ice cream place called Van Leeuwen. It's so good, but it's like, that's what I would be. And I kind of look like a honeycomb today, so it works.
I would be mint chocolate chip.
That's my favorite ice cream aside from this honeycomb, so that also makes sense.
And that's why I would be mint chocolate chip.